Clownvergence, Clownvergence. We're getting together to make the world better. Clownvergence, Clownvergence. We'll make you laugh and play. We'll take your blues away.
Me, myself, as you see, I invite you already to a very special space here in my background. It's a photo from a space where I go regular for rehearsal or for practices or however you want to call it, as a solo clown, artist, improviser, which is something I'm doing on a regular basis, to connect with spirits, with moments, with energies, with inspiration. And I just love to do that, being alone with yourself, with your humor, with the fun inside of you and around you, is a practice that which is maybe not something that every German does every day, but it is something that I would like already to share, because I think it's very, very powerful. And it brings me to a little bit to the history, that I wanted to share with you about the jesters and clowns, at least also around here in Germany, because one figure which is also very important here when you look at the history is definitely the court jester. Also an individual doing fun, of the stuff happening at the court, mirroring the king and what he does and what he should do or maybe did, and which is kind of funny. And he does that, to reflect on issues and brings in the humor, and he's allowed to speak truth to the king and to the court. While we should not forget, it wasn't always that he survived doing that. Quite often, he came through with that and he could make a living. But also there was also the danger that he goes too far, that he might hit a spot for on a regular day or whatever, and that he goes to prison or even worse. So there was already a danger involved, for mirroring a certain truth or speaking out loud a truth to the king. And actually, I want to build a bridge on that already now with a job that I'm doing. And what I'm working with is being a jester in modern times, also being a court jester, which means for me right now also being a business jester, or some other colleagues call it a corporate fool. As you might think that, some people already see themselves as coaches or consultants in organizations as a fool. But, I'm kind of going maybe a little step further with that, because I'm using improv theater methods in organizations to understand organizations and structures and the magic of communication, also the fun of interaction of humans. And I also myself speak out some truths sometimes. Giving you one example, I was once working in a corporate, in an automotive, and I said, it was about being faster and having more efficient meetings. And I said, well, why don't you just get the smoke from your engines back into your meeting room, and you have a good reason for be fast and end earlier? And they looked at me and I think they thought, is he joking, or is really speaking out truth, and does it mean serious? And me, myself, I wasn't actually sure how do I meant, but it just came to my mind in that moment to say that, speaking out the truth, because I think, many of the problems we see right now is because some loops are not closed anymore. We put out the rubbish there. And so closing the loops, getting an understanding of how things are connected, I think it's maybe the time of the modern jester also, in some new contexts, is speaking out the truth, with a danger also, to leave getting fired or whatever comes. And there I would like to go back to another figure in German history of clowns. His name is Till Eulenspiegel. The name already means owl mirror, like the wisdom of the owl and mirroring back to the people. And Till Eulenspiegel, it was in the 14th century, is a semi-fictional figure moving through villages in Germany and making a living out of, fooling the people by telling them some truth about their society, about how they live. And I think also that is maybe even more important in the times we live in right now, where we seem to know about climate change and the stuff we could improve, but actually we don't do it. And I sometimes think maybe we should put in more humor, more straight interaction face to face with people moving from village to village. And maybe that's also the modern comedian or some comedians doing that right now. And the last remark about the history in Germany, we have also the tradition of Fasching / Carnival. It starts on November 11th, so the 11th, magic of numbers, and it goes still to February and ends there. And it's the possibility, especially then in February, to celebrate on the streets, having marching bands, dressing self up. The men can dress up as women and the other way around. So we play, also with gender and with status, becoming a governor or a prince and so on. But, nevertheless, sometimes there's also some research or the question, is that the once in a year permission to shift the structure of society? And so we could see it could be different, while in the same moment we train, but that the normal is that how it should be and should continue, right? So sometimes the question is, if this clowning or carnival, is it really contributing to change, or does it provoke change, or is it more stabilizing the status quo? I think it's a very interesting question. And connecting to Tatjana, my last remark, when she said, the phallus, then the Aschermittwoch, so the last Wednesday in this period, is also, there's a tradition where the women can cut the ties of the men, so it's also, I think it's kind of a similar procedure to go into the springtime and go for the new year in a way for maybe changing things as a potential, at least.
There ain't no place I'd rather be. You're lighter than the sun and the stars to me. Everybody's family at the Clownvergence.